Welcome to the Self-Storage Show, where I have conversations with my industry friends, talk with owners and vendors, and share tales about my management company, 3 Mile Storage. Let's go. Hey everyone, so I just finished putting together this new book, 3 Mile Storage Management, 3 Zones of Excellence. This is our framework for success in self-storage. Want a free copy? Okay, here's the deal. Book a strategy session with me. Together we're going to walk your business through the 3 Zones of Excellence framework. And I've done countless sessions like these over the years with many self-storage owners. I guarantee you that together, we're going to reveal some ways to increase your leads, rentals, and revenue. So go to 3milestorage.com and book your time today. Hi everyone, this is Jim Ross with the Self-Storage Show. Got a good one here for you today. Got my friend Carl Touhey with me from Performance Self-Storage Group. How's it going, Carl?
Awesome, and you?
Good. I'm glad you're able to squeeze me in your busy schedule. So I appreciate it, Mr. As I nicknamed you, the Mr. Traveling Man. You're everywhere.
I know. Well, countries, I'm at 59.
What?
59.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. We can do.
So I just knocked off. Let me see. Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, Croatia, Bosnia, and Montenegro. That's what I knocked off in the last 30 days.
That is okay. When I grow up, I want to be Carl. That's
okay.
I was gonna say, dude, I mean, that much travel. That's
yeah.
Good.
Well, I like to travel, so.
No, this is a storage show, so I guess we'll talk about storage here.
Let's start with I'm a self-storage junkie. How about that?
There we go. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like a little AA meeting. Kind of tell us who you are, what you do, and we'll go from there. If you don't.
Okay.
So give us a little background, Carl.
Okay, so I am from Albany, New York, and my family, our main family business was a Ford dealership, which we actually bought from Henry Ford, and we owned that dealership for 105 years.
Holy cow.
And as a result of the car dealership, we got in the real estate business. And in the 70s, we bought the Chevy dealership in Schenectady, and that's the birthplace of General Electric, for some of you who don't know. And then in between those two cities, there's a road called Central Ave. And then in 1972, my uncle said, let's buy these cheap metal buildings and put up what's called, mini storage. That's what they called it back then. So Jim, from 72 to like 76, we built 4 self-storage facilities, which is, kind of like, and I know there's other people that say I had the first one, but I would say our family, we're near, the beginning of this industry. So we built 4 deals in Albany, New York, which is a population not huge, only about 100,000 people, from 72 to 76. I left Albany, went to Arizona State, worked at Marcus Millichap, and then my uncle called me up and said, Carl, there's all these great deals from the Resolution Trust Company. And those people don't know who that is. That's the company that the government, formed to take over the assets of failed banks and financial institutions. So in 1990, I left Marcus Millichap, moved to Dallas, and I bought 300 apartment units. So I bought a 106 unit, a 92 unit, and a 60 unit. And then a self-storage facility came for sale from the RTC in Fort Worth. And I called up my uncle, and he's like, tell me about it. I go, well, it's, 392 units. It's 48,000 square feet. He goes, what's the price? I go, 385,000. He's like, you got to be kidding me. He goes, I'll be there tomorrow. And he flew out, and we met the bank. It was called, I think at that time, American Federal Bank. So I bought my first storage facility, and then with my uncle, then moving forward, we bought 5 together. So that's kind of how I started in the self-storage show. And I always tell people this funny story. The first self-storage meeting I went to, Jim, in Las Vegas, the entire Self-Storage Association had one speaker for 3 days. It was Buzz Victor. It was at Caesar's Palace, 1975. I was 17 years old. The entire Self-Storage Association, are you ready? 30 people.
Are you kidding?
30 people.
Oh my gosh.
So then kind of moving fast forward, and then, I moved to the San Francisco Bay Area. And at that time when I moved here, and I didn't tell a lot of people this, I owned 8 self-storage deals. And I still had the apartments. And, my wife wanted to start a family, have kids. And, so that's when I teamed up with Jason Allen, and we started Performance Self-Storage Group. So today, I currently own 4 self-storage deals with Jay Allen. And as a part owner and different partners throughout the country, I'm at 44.
Really?
And, and then as it relates to the brokerage side of the business, so Jay and I are two people. We're a small boutique, self-storage brokerage firm, and we've done about $1.3 billion in self-storage transactions.
Yeah, just a small little boutique. Yeah.
That's my life.
Yeah. That's wow. If you haven't done it yet, you need to write a book or something like that. Just do a little.
Yeah.
Seriously, you've
You
done.
can be the editor or
There we go.
publisher.
Done and done. There we go.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear those early stories like that of
Yeah.
30 people at a self-storage association meeting.
Yeah.
That's like
And
a
those
round
metal chairs. I still remember that. The cheap metal chairs. And that was it. And I remember Buzz Victor, the one thing my takeaway from that is like, when you build a self-storage facility, it's all about location, 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 and signage. Whereas now it's all about, okay, how great is my mobile app webpage?
True.
So,
Yep. That's a whole operational thing. We can talk
right.
about foundations. That's the important thing, is the foundation.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, anyway, I want to have you come on because obviously there's very few people in this industry that I'd like to, reach out to and talk to, that have their finger on the pulse of what's really going on. And obviously the last few years, it's kind of the highs, now it's the lows, and it's so.
Yep.
Just want to kind of talk to you a little about the.
Yeah, okay, I'll start. So, I'll put on my broker's hat, and last year, Jay and I, we did about 134 million of transactions.
Yeah.
We did $80 million worth of transactions in the first quarter. And what I want to talk about first, with everyone is the cap rate. And the cap rate on those deals that we sold in the first quarter was somewhere between, right around like a 3.8 to about a 4. And at that time, the 10-year T-bill, as we know, was right around 1. So that means if you add 200 basis points, guys were getting debt, 10-year fixed rate, non-recourse mortgages for anywhere, from about 3 to 4%, depending on their liquidity, experience, and of course net worth.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, as we all know, the interest rates started going up. So right before, Jim, we got on the show, I looked at the 5-year T-bill and the 10-year T-bill. And for a lot of people who don't know, I mean, that is, believe it or not, the benchmark for evaluating deals in our industry. Because, if the 5-year T-bill, if we use that example, is 5% today, my bank that we use, they are usually 300 basis points or 3% more. So if you want to get a 5-year loan from, let's say, a bank today, you're looking at 8%. So then, what every investor should look at, just go, okay, if I've got 1 million, 10 million, $100 million, if I want to put it, and buy a 5-year T-bill, a 10-year T-bill, or CDs, they're paying anywhere between 5 and maybe up to like 5.4, 5.5%. So then that means, why would someone buy a self-storage deal at a 4% cap rate if I can make 5% of my money completely liquid, guaranteed by the federal government? So right now, Jim, I mean, we're in this total transition. And for Jay and I as brokers, we have to, when a guy says, hey, I want to sell my deal, just give you a quick rule of thumb. If you had a $10 million deal last year and the cap rate was 4, and let's say the debt is 7 for CMBS, that means the cap rate should be 8. That $10 million deal on its best day is worth $6 million.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And believe me, this is, and what we're talking about too, Jim, it's not about self-storage. It's office, it's apartments, it's multifamily, it's retail, it's mobile home parks, it's senior living. So my point is, the market is really going to change for those people who bought or invested in a deal and they have a loan coming due. So if your old loan was 4% and your new loan is, let's say, I'll shoot low, it's going to be 7%. Now, then, with the lenders also, they're going to want to be at a 1.25 debt service coverage ratio. So now, I mean, I guess we're going to see how this plays out. I mean, and, on transactions moving forward.
Yeah. And try to make up that loan to value gap. There's
Right.
going to be some people getting caught with their pants down.
Yep.
For lack of a better word.
Yep. And believe me, I mean, I always tell people, I have lived through the good times. I've lived through the bad times. And when I was a kid and we owned our car dealership, I remember, Jim, when prime was 18%. That was really bad, But then for me, I made money when I moved to Dallas in 1990, and I bought 300 apartment units and 5 self-storage facilities. But then I was buying them maybe 10 cents on the dollar. That's why I made money. But then I'm also, as you know me, I'm very frank that in 2008 into 2010, I had 2 loans that got called on me. One was a self-storage, development deal. We had a $10 million loan. And on page like 85 of the promissory note, they said, hey, we have the right to resize your loan based on the debt service coverage ratio. So we had a $10 million deal. They got it independently appraised at $5 million. They said, okay, we want you to pay down your loan $3 million. Wow. And sadly for me, I was a small investor in that deal, and I ended up having to give my shares to the lead investor. He put up or paid down, however you want to call it, the $10 million loan, $3 million. And then what did I get in return? I got off the personal guarantee.
Wow.
So that was example number one. In 2010, I, invested in a storage deal in San Jose with a partner from Dallas. He put up 90% of the equity. I put up 10%. Same scenario, and I forget who that loan was with, but the loan came due, and he's like, okay, Carl, here's the deal. I have the cash to pay up the 90%. Do you have your 10%? And I'm like, God, 800 grand cash. I didn't have 800 grand cash in my checking account at that time. And I'm like, there's just no way I can do this. And on that one, we did a deed in lieu. And that property is owned by one of the publicly traded companies. So all I'm telling you is that, what we're talking about, it's happened to me. Gotcha. So then now let's move forward to present day. So I think the first group of people where I think are going to be getting in trouble is, let's say you bought land 4 years ago. You got it entitled 3 years ago. You took a year to build it 2 years ago. Now you've been open for a year, and let's say a lot of construction loans, Jim, again, let's go back 4 years ago. They were probably 4%. So now if you built let's just say, a $10 million storage facility, for sake of argument, you have a $10 million loan on it. Well, if the old interest rate at 4% was 400 grand a year, and I've heard construction loans or those kind of mini perm are 8 to 11% now. And again, your lender is going to say, okay, you've got to be within your debt service coverage ratio. And, and I think what's going to happen is that at the end of this year, you're going to have to submit, as with most lenders, your profit and loss for 2023, your balance sheet, and your rent roll. And all of a sudden, the analyst is going to look at that and give it to a senior analyst and go, this guy's at like a 1.0 debt service coverage ratio. And that's when I think the lenders are going to say, we will refinance your deal, but your $10 million loan, we want you to pay it down $1 million to $2 million. So, wow. So those developers, let's say if, I invest in that deal and I bought 10% and I put up $1 million, and then the developer calls me up and says, hey, Carl, know that deal that we built, the beautiful state-of-the-art Class A deal? The loan's coming due. We have to refinance it. We have to pay it down $2 million. You own 10%, please send in 200 grand. That's when the world's going to change for developers. And then the second group, I think, where I think there's going to be pain coming is a lot of these guys who got SBA loans. And you've heard a lot about that. You see them all over the place. And the SBA loan, that whole program is designed for the small investor who had very little experience, low liquidity, and low net worth. And what they did is they let you buy a storage deal and put 10% down. And I'll give you an example. I mean, I know a father-son team that bought a deal about a year and a half ago, and it was $6 million. And they put, 10% down, that's, 600 grand. They have a $5.4 million loan. Most of the SBA loans, there's two things you need to know about them. They adjust to prime, which now that puts them at north of 9%, where it was like, let's say 4% a year ago. Also, those loans come with a full personal guarantee. I know some clients that took down an SBA loan and they cross collateralized their house.
Okay.
So
it just made my stomach fall out.
yeah, I know, right?
Oh,
but on the other hand, now let's be positive. Okay, we own 4 deals.
Hey, give me
Okay,
positive.
we own 44 deals, and all of our deals that we own, I, not bragging, I kind of saw this coming. So what Jay and I did, let's say on some of our deals, we put 10-year fixed rate long-term debt on our deals. So for me, we have 3.6, 3.61, and 4%. So on our deals, we bought them low, we fixed them up, we cleaned them up, we put 10-year debt on them. So we have, I think probably like 8 to 8.5 years of runway in front of me, at that rate. So, and the storage, facilities that we own, they're professionally managed by Storage Pro. We've been very pleased with them. They've been great. My son Stefan works there, and they do a very good job of managing them. So for us, and I think for a lot of people, the transaction volume, is going and has gone down because people are saying, geez, I own this storage facility. Let's say I have no debt, I have low loan to value, and they're full. So with that being said, I mean, it's great, and then a lot of people, let's say, as it relates to self-storage, when the times are good, people are buying a boat, they're buying a car, they're buying a jet ski, they're buying a second home, and then they're putting their stuff in storage. Well, COVID happened and it turned out better for us. And, and I'll, example number one, COVID happened. Okay, you're a working guy and your kids are home from school. So then you took that 3rd bedroom and and you turned it into an office and a classroom. Where did everyone put their stuff? Self-storage. Here's the good news. It's still there. And we're still raising rents, not at the same tune or rate and pace that we were, but we're still able to capitalize on that.
Yeah, we could do no wrong back then.
Yeah, exactly.
So for listeners that are tuning in and watching this right now, and let's just say they're not in storage yet, they want to get into storage. Do you think they've kind of maybe missed that window and they have to kind of just wait it out on the sidelines for a little while, or is there any kind of glimmer of hope of them being?
I think, well, I mean, again, I'm going to be very biased. I think self-storage is the best real estate investment out there. And again, I'm coming from a guy that I've owned retail, I've owned land, I've owned office, I've owned industrial. Self-storage, there's no doubt, is I think the best real estate investment. And I mean, with what happened with COVID, owning like senior care, oh my gosh, I would never want to own that. But for the new investor who's on this call or listening to this sometime, is that the market and the opportunity, I think, is going to come. I think it's going to start coming at the end of the first quarter when guys, as I mentioned earlier, are going to send their P&Ls, and now if they're going to have to do a capital call or refinance, that's where they're going to need to bring money in, new money. And I'll just give you an example. I know a guy that has a deal, and 2 years ago he thought it's worth 10 million. Today it's worth 8 million. He has a $7 million loan that is due on December 31st. Let's assume that, let's say the deal's worth 8 million and the bank wants to be 60% loan to value. So they're going to want that $7 million loan paid down 2 million. So that means if someone comes in with 2 million, now you're basically going to be buying 60, 70% of the deal that was worth 10 million.
Yeah.
And and again, everything is going to be tied to interest rates. I'm of the mindset, I don't think the rates are going to go down until after the presidential election. So I think the rates are going to stay the same, until the first quarter of 25. So
interesting. Wow. Okay. Well, that's why I'm having more of these kind of conversations. It's not all doom and gloom. There's opportunities. And when one thing goes up, something goes down, but there's opportunities there. But I want to be able to educate more people about what's going on. There's no one else that's like I said,
and then what I'm doing is that the cash that I have, we have kind of halted any CapEx projects on all of our deals that we own, unless if something needs, if the pipe breaks underneath the bathroom sink, well, you got to fix it. But we're not doing anything big CapEx projects. And then what I'll tell your listeners, this is what I'm doing, you don't have to do it, is that I'm taking my money and I'm buying 3-month T-bills and CDs. And of course, remember the FDIC, you want to keep it under 250. I like to stay at 200, and I'm probably in, oh God, like 10, 15, 20 banks, around the country. And then if I find a deal and now I need that chunk of cash, now I can tell Mr. Seller, listen, okay, let's get this deal under contract. Here's my proof of funds. Here's my net worth. Here's my experience. And I'm laddering these CDs. So then if I find a deal, and let's say I'll pick a number, I need $3 million down. Well, I can just go, Mr. Seller, here's a bank statement that has $3 million in it. But these things are going to mature, I'll just say 2 months from today. And let's say if I'm going to put 30% down, I'm going to and in today's world, I wouldn't do a long-term loan, not at these rates. I mean, I would do a 1, 3, or 5-year loan. I would try and do interest only. Unfortunately, with a bank, everyone you need to know out there, someone's going to be signing a personal guarantee. And then, for Jay and I now put on our buyer hat, we're going to look for the right opportunities.
Wow. Okay. Again, we probably consider talk all day long about different scenarios, but I like that you talk about real world examples, because that's so much more, it's so much more impactful than just the theories of what's going on. No, you've lived it and breathed it, and you can give some real world examples. And frankly, that's I think that's a better advice than anything that's out there. So I appreciate it.
Okay.
I'm glad that you can be transparent like that and give us those examples, because it's very impactful. So I really appreciate it. So for those people who want to reach out to you, get a hold of you, any more information, you mind?
Yeah, well, I mean, our company is called Performance Self Storage Group. You can look us up on Google. Anyone, so just go to our webpage and you can get in touch with myself or Jay.
Perfect. Sounds good. All right. Thanks so much, Carl.
All right.
Do this again, man.
Okay, bye.
Take care. Bye.
Before we wrap up, just a quick reminder. Do you want to level up your storage game? Visit theselfstorageshow.com. Grab some high-value freebies, check out top vendor spotlights, and stay in the loop with our newsletter. Do you want to chat about becoming a client with 3 Mile Storage Management? All the info's there. Plus, if you've got a story to share, we're listening. Everything you need is at theselfstorageshow.com.